Hey there, podcast listeners. Welcome to another episode of What's So Funny, the show that probes the minds, the brains, and the psyches of the people who make the funny. This week, we have an extra special cute episode. Cute because it's tiny and perfect. The guest, too, Iliza Shlesinger is the guest. I also have trouble with the last name, but let's just call her Iliza from now on, shall we? There's only one Iliza. Well, Eliza Doolittle, but she's fictional. And maybe one other Eliza, but there's only one that you need to know, especially for this 40 minutes. Yes, it is a short episode, as I said. Eliza was in town, third time guest on this program. I'm glad she took the time to speak with us. She didn't have a lot of it, but that's the kind of priority she sets for this program. What's so funny? We talked about lots in the 40 minutes. Less than 40 minutes, to be honest, but close to 40 minutes. We talked about, what did we talk about? Ooh, geez, let me think. We talked about her dating life. We talked about her being Jewish. We talked about hipsterism. And we talked about Dane Cook, I remember that. And we talked about hosting late-night talk shows. That's just off the top of my head. We talked about other things, too. So if you're making a checklist at home, don't stop once all those are checked off, because there might be more. No promises, but I think there is. Okay, let's get on to my talk with Eliza. And enough small talk, Eliza. We don't have much time because of your busy Vancouver schedule. What you been doing? Besides eating apples.
Besides eating this apple. I've been on tour called the War Paint Tour since it's the tour since releasing the Netflix special. And I'm doing a second album in August.
I heard,
hour.
Yeah.
So it's just been every single weekend. It's just been out at clubs, 5 hours of stand-up, like standard, a weekend, just trying to polish this hour because I wanted to get it out as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. So you're filming this special. Now, who does that? Do you do it and then you sell it to Netflix, or how does that work?
New Wave, we're a big company. They do a lot of production stuff. They film it.
Mm-hmm.
They pay for everything, and then Netflix acquires it.
I see. So we can look for it on Netflix in the fall?
Couldn't say.
You couldn't say.
But I should say. But I don't know. I mean, there's always...
Just say the fall. People will forget by the time the fall comes around.
Yeah, it should be on Netflix. It's always possible that the president of Netflix who okayed it goes away, and then some giant turtle becomes president, and he decides he doesn't like girls with blonde hair, and I don't get my special.
No.
Things like that happen.
It was a huge success.
Well, hopefully this one will be too.
But what have you been doing here in Vancouver?
Well, let's see. We had all sold out shows.
Yeah, and tonight too.
Which is great, yeah.
I'm going to come anyway.
I love Vancouver. I love everything from the weather to the buildings to the people to just walking around. So just a lot of walking around with Blanche.
Yeah? You go to Stanley Park?
No, but I went to David Lamb Park, which is right here.
Right across the street, yeah.
This is not that interesting, but Vancouver is home to a couple of my favorite things. Aritzia, which is a girls' clothing store that
I didn't know that.
Obsessed with.
Really?
And so I always take my time here to buy as much as I can. And Earl's, which is a Canadian thing. Yeah, there's one in Denver, but so I spent some time there. I just take it as a time to relax and just enjoy a city.
It's also the home to Lululemon.
Yeah, but I'm not. You can get Lululemon anywhere.
Right. But it's the home.
It's the home. I'm not into paying, $90 for a workout shirt.
Yeah. Hey, last time we spoke, a couple weeks ago, you were on your way to a date.
Yeah, I was. I felt bad about that because we had scheduled everything and everything got moved around. And next thing I know, I'm in the parking lot looking at him 1 second.
You felt bad for him?
For you, because we had scheduled an interview, and then I was like, I've got a date later, Dad. No. And it was one of those dates where you go out and it's fine. Kind of just sniffing each other out. And I made this big deal about, he's like, okay, I'd like to see you again. And he texted me and there was no follow-up, which I was fine with. But it's if you don't want to see a girl, then just don't text her. It's just odd to me when guys do the whole, I want to see you again. When are you free? So
they say it and then they don't follow through.
I didn't say anything. He went out of his way to, and I wasn't one way or the other. I was like, okay, you're a nice guy, whatever. But I think it's odd behavior. It's when are you free next? And it's you don't have to say that. So I think
So you never heard from him again? Is that what you're saying?
He follows me on Twitter and he's favorited a couple of tweets, and I'm like, I don't. There were a couple things that happened on the date where I was like, you know what? I feel like you and I are not on the same wavelength, but it'd be nice if we were friends. I don't care. I give so few fucks. It's ridiculous.
How do you meet guys? Like, how did you meet this guy? Is he in showbiz? Because you live in LA, and most everybody is.
Yeah, I'll answer half of that question. I feel like if I meet someone, this happened a couple times where I've met someone, like just, like you're at a comedy show or something and someone walks up, they're like, oh, great set. And you're like, thanks. And the guy's attractive. And you're like, hi. And then we start talking and he's like, yeah, I'm actually thinking about getting into stand-up. You're like, yeah, sorry. Okay, it was nice meeting you. Bye. Like, I want no part of that. I don't want to hear that you're thinking about it. I don't want to hear that you do it. No interest in that.
And yet, you know what? I've been going to comedy clubs since before you were born, maybe. And people say, well, have you ever tried it? Do you ever feel like you want to try it? Because it seems like anyone who really likes comedy, they have to try it. I never felt like that.
Right. Some people are.
So, I mean, if you meet somebody at a club, and there's so many comics now, right? It seems like, well, of course they're going to be interested in trying it at some point.
Well, I mean,
maybe they're just trying to connect with you, and that's the wrong way to do it.
That's the wrong way to do it. Yeah. Look, if you want to do stand-up, go for it. I'm just not interested in dating a stand-up comic, having been around them and just knowing that, like, if you're less successful than me, there's going to be a jealousy factor. If you're more successful than me, that's a little bit different, but I haven't met too many male comics that are more successful than me that I've like flirted with. I feel like at a certain level, you just don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just not a world that I choose to date in. I think it's a good way to get rumors spread about you. And look, if you fall in love, it's one thing. But the point is, and also I just think it's funny when people are like, yeah, I'm thinking about trying it. I'm like, oh, well, comedy will wait. There's just like an air about man or woman. I'm thinking about trying that. Yeah, I do a little stand-up. It's like one does not simply do a little stand-up. You either do it and you are a stand-up or you do not.
Right.
Plus, you're born a stand-up comedian. Like, it's a genetic defect.
A defect.
Yeah.
Not a trait.
Nope.
A defect. So, yeah, I know you say you were funny as a kid.
I guess. I mean, yes, but...
Or going for laughs.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to be like, I was so funny as a kid. But I think I always liken it to being an X-Men. Like, stand-up comics think they're way cooler than they are. Like, in the comedy community, we call other people civilians. Like, as if what we do... I mean, it's a cool thing to make people laugh, but, like, we're not soldiers. Like, we're not saving lives. It's funny that we call people civilians because we did a military show over New Year's Eve and we stopped saying civilians the second we got there.
Pretty quick.
Oh, it was humbling. But it's a weird thing. You have to ask yourself. I was talking to somebody the other day and he was like, I'm thinking about doing stand-up. And I was like, ask yourself why. Like, what is it in you? Is there something in you that makes you want to get up in front of people and explain the way you see things? Because that's really what part of the innate drive to do stand-up is.
And suffering the rejection, I guess, too, goes along with that, especially in the early days.
All of it, especially, and being okay with it. You don't know till you try it, but it's just funny to me when people, like, I'm just trying a little bit of stand-up here and there, and maybe because I hit the ground running and I just went for it.
First time you went on stage, you just said, this is it.
For stand-up?
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually don't. For a proper stand-up showcase, not like I did like a coffee house thing where I got up and read some things that I had some observations about my class. Like, that's first time doing stand-up. I knew the jokes were good, and it was more that I got invited back than anything else. And
little validation.
I guess, but I wasn't like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I think when you know you're going to be funny for your living and for life, it's just something that carries you. And I could have been asked to do a sketch troupe and that could have become my passion. Like, it's just, I knew I was going to be funny for a living. I don't have a good
some
answer.
Way.
Yeah.
Somehow.
My whole life.
Yeah.
I never studied stand-up. I was never a student of it. I continued to
you mean
not
just
be.
On your own?
Yeah. I didn't grow up. I mean, I watched a little bit, but it was more sketches. It was just funny. And I knew you either understand funny or you don't.
Yeah.
And I knew I got it. I knew I understood it. My whole family's funny. Like, I get.
But there are sketch actors who can't do stand-up and vice versa. There's stand-ups who can't do sketch. But there is an underlying sameness.
You have to understand comedy.
Understand the joke.
Timing, stillness, rule of three, energy. There's just, and you either innately get it or you don't. And you can learn these things and kind of, suffer through it. And that's the other thing. I did this, I won't say what I did recently because you'll see it on whatever. I did a thing recently with all professional comedians, and I was asking them, I wasn't familiar with everyone, So I was asking, are you a stand-up? They're like, I do it all. I'm a stand-up and sketch, and I do Vine and YouTube. I'm like, no, you're not a stand-up. Just because you go up once every 3 months, I'm like, I'm a stand-up. This is what I do. I don't say I'm a sketch artist. Even if I'm in a sketch, I don't say I do improv, even if I've done improv. I did it like in high school. Yeah. I think people are too quick to label themselves as everything. And I think you'd find more success if you really went for one thing and then you could dabble later. Mm-hmm. But right off the bat, being like, oh, I do all of it. I'm like, okay, well, that would explain why you're nowhere.
So you think you really have to commit to one particular style? Or you can commit to all of them, but commit is the key.
Commit is the key. Do your improv classes, do your sketch classes, do your stand-up. It's borderline impossible to do one with enough frequency to produce a polished act. Now, you can be famous. A lot of people are famous because they're funny, because they host things, and so someone writes them a stand-up act. But because it's really just delivering a monologue at that point. You know, if we're talking about stand-up at its nittiest and grittiest, where it's something that you feel you want to share and you're really getting some work done on that stage, that takes time and commitment. That's not, I get up like once a month and like I read from my notebook.
Hey, going back to your dates, do you dismiss somebody like right away? Because I'm thinking a lot of comics I talk to, when it comes to jokes that they're trying, a new joke, they'll give it, I hear a lot, 3 tries, and if it doesn't work after 3,
a joke?
Yeah, like
no, I don't keep count.
You don't keep count. Well, yeah, I know Stephen Wright does, and I've heard a couple others say that too. So, but you do try it more than once.
Yeah, you keep trying it.
So I'm wondering if that crosses over into dates. Like if you see a guy, do you go, I should give him a few more dates?
No, that's stupid.
Faulty analogy?
It's a really faulty analogy.
Okay.
The idea of keeping track, the idea of applying mathematics, aside from the rule of 3, to a joke, the variables are so independent. Your crowd could be brain dead and the joke is great.
Yeah.
So you're going to trash that joke because the crowd was bad?
Exactly. I'm with you.
But as far as the dating thing goes, which seems to be what you really want to talk about, which is fine.
No. That's where we started.
To bring it full circle, I think as you get older, you become more picky, but you also become more tolerant. Like there are people you will go out with now because you know they have something to offer aside from the aesthetic, like up front. Like if you're into like really buff guys, that's great, but maybe you date a guy who turns out to be really funny and smart and you can become attracted to him. And I think you learn more about yourself the older you get. So right off the bat, I know what I'm not willing to tolerate. And if there's a second where I'm like, if I give you a second thought, then I'll go out with you again. Because you can't check off everything in your like hot guy list, like right off the bat. I went out with someone recently who physically we weren't particularly compatible, but I thought he was very smart and very funny and kind. The last boyfriend I had, who turned out to be a sociopath, had a horrible body, and I didn't find him attractive for a very long time. And then we started dating, and it all came together. So you never know.
Came together, and then it fell apart.
And then he turned out to be a mega sociopath.
Yikes.
But the point is, I dated somebody out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
look where that got you.
Right, that's true. But
never again.
Had he not lied, and had he actually been all the things he said he was, it would have been fine.
Right.
So it just takes all types.
Sorry to hear that. I saw a clip of you, some outtakes from. I know Excused is old now. When did that go off the air?
It's still on the air in parts of Canada, I think, and in parts of Europe.
Really?
But not in the States. About a year ago, maybe.
Yeah, I saw an outtake of you with your mother.
Oh yeah, my mom came.
And she was saying like, "Don't touch your hair; it makes you look stupid." And your eggs are getting old.
Yeah, she was. I think she was hamming it up for the camera.
Oh, she was.
But she does get on me for touching my hair. My mom is she's not one of those.
Well, you can't now because your hair's short.
I touch it all the time.
Oh, do you?
Oh, my God. Some people have told me that they play a drinking game with my War Paint DVD where they drink every time I touch my hair. It's just a compulsion.
They never get to the end of it because they passed out.
Wasted.
Yeah.
My hair's all oily. But I'm very lucky that I don't have a mom that pressures me for getting married. She's like, whatever happens, whatever you're happy with. So I don't have a Jewish mother, a traditional Jewish mother in that sense. I'm very lucky.
That was something I didn't know about you either, that you are Jewish.
Well, they made me leave my sewn-on yellow star at home.
You don't talk about it a lot. You know, I listen to Mark Maron's podcast, and he talks about it a lot with anyone who is Jewish.
With anyone who will listen, yes.
I listen. But yeah, it's not something that you ever feel the need to talk about on stage. Was that a conscious choice or just doesn't
It's just not where I find the funny. It's not, I was raised Jewish and went to confirmation, went to Israel, got a bat mitzvah, but I think when your parents are divorced and so you're raised by a single mom, it's less, I can't say I felt particularly welcomed by the Jewish community growing up in Dallas, Texas, or by my peers. I went to a large public school and then I went to a private school. So when you're in a large public school where most people are Christian, I don't think Judaism is like the coolest religion. So
Really?
yeah,
I do.
I mean, it's cool in theory, but like in practice, Hebrew is not an attractive language. The holidays are weird. You got to say the Hebrew word, like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Like these are not American words. I don't know. It's an odd thing. It makes you feel uncomfortable about your own religion. I'm proud to be Jewish, and I would, argue it. Not that Jews do with toe to toe with anyone. If you wanted to talk dogma, but it's just not. I didn't grow up in this like Jewish household with a neurotic aunt and crazy grandparents. Like it wasn't. While being Jewish was a part of my upbringing, none of the neuroses and jokes that come along with it were there. I just don't think about it that much.
So were you cultural Jewish or religious?
I mean, religious in that I did all the things. I had a bat mitzvah and I did all the things. And I do celebrate the 1 to 2 mega holidays we have a year. Like I'll go to services mostly for your parents. You go to like be like, look, I went.
Yeah. I used to go to church on Easter and Christmas.
For your mom, right?
I stopped, yeah.
Right. But that's it. I try to fast on Yom Kippur. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I'll be like, whatever, I didn't eat yesterday. That counts. God doesn't really care. It's not, he doesn't care. So culturally, and, and then your parents have Yiddish words they say once in a while. So I'm culturally Jewish. And it depends on how you define. I mean, I am a Jew. Some people define Judaism as the negation of acknowledging Jesus Christ. It has nothing to do with it. So yeah, I guess I'm Jewish, but it's not something, while I would marry someone who isn't Jewish, I would have to, that's fine. I would just have to raise the kids Jewish.
Oh, so you would, yeah.
And I don't think anybody that I would marry would care that we raise the kids Jewish. I can't see myself marrying like a devout Catholic. Because fundamentally, we just would disagree on so many things. Or
devout anything.
Devout anything. You can marry a devout Buddhist because they'd be super chill with like the whole Judaism thing.
We're all one.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. Sure.
I think when I was around 12, I think I wore a Star of David.
Just for funsies?
Not for funsies. I liked it. And my mom always liked, she always considered herself Jewish, but she wasn't.
Weird.
I know.
Well, we didn't consider her Jewish, so let her know that.
Yeah.
I also what I like about my religion is that I think especially growing up in Texas, there's a church on every corner and there's that. I mean, I was definitely told I was going to hell a couple times when I was younger. I like that Jews don't do that. I like that Judaism, we don't want you. We don't need you. You want to be part of us? Great. If not, that's okay too. And it's in that not forcing of your practices on people that it makes me like it even more. I went to Yom Kippur, was it Rosh Hashanah services? And I brought like 3 Catholic friends. I had a Passover dinner. Almost everyone there was Catholic. When you live in Hollywood, you can't really afford to be too religious.
Well, I grew up Catholic, and that's what I always liked about that until, other things came in the news, was that they weren't the people going out there trying to convert either. It was just like, hey, join us or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
We prefer you don't. Which is also... It can be a very cloistered religion. Like the higher up you get, the more Orthodox you get. And they don't like Reform Jews. You look at the Orthodox community, it never strikes me as particularly welcoming or warm. Like they want to do their own thing. And part of that is a survival technique. When you're being forced out of your countries, you have to maintain your traditions, because that's the only way to hold on to your culture when you're constantly being displaced. So I understand it to a degree, but I don't know. I think being an Orthodox Jew would be maybe the worst ever.
Have you had any interaction with them?
Sure.
Yeah.
I always feel the need to be like, I'm Jewish too. I'm Jewish too.
How do they treat that?
They don't say anything. Yeah. They don't bother. No one's ever moved into an Orthodox neighborhood and been like, and the crime rate just skyrocketed. Like they keep to themselves. They're quiet. They don't hurt anyone. They certainly don't ask for their own laws to be instituted.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
No, they don't bother anyone.
Yeah, I saw, I forget where I saw or heard you were talking about God is math. Oh, it was with Pete Holmes.
God is mad?
Math. Like it's just
I think that's
math.
something Pete, that sounds like something Pete would say. I can't imagine me saying God is math.
Well, you were saying it's just math. It's like the Big Bang and all that. Like to be an atheist and say there is no God is crazy because it's energy and whatever. And you were saying that is God. It's just math.
Okay.
Your quote.
Probably. Then I said it and I stick by it. Yeah, it is. It's physics. It's energy.
So that just is how you define it. And you can't just say, well, I'm going to call that God when everyone else is talking about the guy up in the sky.
It's all the same thing, whether you know it or not. It's a life force, and so it doesn't have to be religious. We don't have to call it God, but it's that life force that puts energy into anything. It's just that spirit, however you want to define it. And the weird thing is, I'm not interested in convincing anyone otherwise, or even thinking about it. It's such a personal thing. It's such a girl thing. Like I'm just like spiritual, which is a great way to let people know like you have no idea what you're talking about. But it is such a personal thing. Mm-hmm. And who cares if you're going to hell? Why would I care if you're going to hell? I'm not going to see you. So I have no desire to convert anyone or make anyone think my way.
Although when I have friends who are born-again Christians, and they never tried to convert me, and I take that personally. They're like, you're my friend. Why you don't care that I'm going to hell? You should at least try to convert me.
What'd they say?
No, it's not really my thing. But when you call them on it, do you think I'm going to hell? Well,
that's
yes.
really funny.
Yes.
But that's such a horrible thing to say. I don't think you're going to hell. I don't think anyone's going to hell. I actually don't believe in hell. Because if you think about it this way, let's say you believe in God. Let's say you believe in this force that creates everything. To have good, there must be evil. And it's all been created. It all exists. So if you're created for the purpose of being evil, or what we deem as evil, maybe what we deem as evil, some other people wouldn't deem as evil. It's all energy, and it's all there it's all cogs in a clockwork making everything work. Why would someone go to hell because of our definition of evil? Like, we're not the ones judging.
Yeah.
So think of it as a giant play, and at the play, everyone takes a curtain call, and no one was actually good or bad. We just go back,
Well, yeah, when you think of the Westboro Baptist Church, God hates fags. You go, well, if he does, he'll deal with them later. Why are you getting involved? That's what I want to say to them.
Well, because they're retarded. I mean, horrible people.
Horrible.
Who will go to hell. They will go to hell, for sure.
No, yeah, there's no hell, but they will go there.
But they're going.
Yeah.
Those people are terrible. You're just here to make everyone miserable.
Yeah.
How's your life working out?
Yeah, well, they're all leaving, too. It's a very small little church.
The guy died.
Oh, that's right. He died
That's
recently.
probably why.
Yeah,
cults need a leader. Cults need someone to flavor what is it? Fruit punch.
This is why I love talking to you. You could talk about anything. You're opinionated.
On everything. Things I didn't know I had opinions on before I walked in the room.
You would talk about on stage too. But this how do you play in front of? I mean, you play all crowds, but hipster crowds, because there seems to be way more now than there ever were. Are they judgy? Do you sense anything?
I equate hipster with this intelligent kind of younger. If you're a hipster, chances are you're pretty intelligent because you've made a choice to be disenfranchised deliberately. And I think of myself as part hipster. It's something that's just my generation is ensconced in, this like hipster movement.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a little bit of hipster in them, and really it's your friends that decided to open up a microbrewery in Portland. Like, it's not, and there are people that are really annoying about it, but overall, I mean, they're just kind of intelligent. I like doing alternative shows because it really gives you a chance to take a step back from the big, fast-paced, spectacle that is my act, and kind of really delve into some specifics. And you can just take a different tone with them. And I love that exercise.
That's what I was wondering, because when you say you love to do alternative shows, I'm thinking your style doesn't match with what I think of all the alternative comics, which is, again,
quiet,
just
sort of slow pace.
Right. What should I think? What should I talk about next?
And you have to adapt to the room, quite frankly. And I think that's the sign of a good comic. There's nothing worse than a comic a sign of an amateur comic is you just get out there and you're like, this is my act, no matter what. I don't care what the audience's tone is. And you have to, I know this sounds like a hippie thing to say, there is an energy involved. And you can still do your act, but I'm serving no purpose if I don't at least take a beat, feel out that room, and then kind of see which ones of my jokes and sort of adapt to the room. You always cater, never pander. It's like, do you want to get jokes or do you want to beat them over the head with your agenda?
Right.
If I'm in a theater, that's different. If I'm in a very small bar that seats 50 people and they're all fans of comedy and they're all there and I'm an inch from their face, you bring it down a notch.
And you can learn from that? Is that
sure.
what you're saying?
Yeah, you can learn.
Add it to your theater act.
You can do that. You can make some of your smarter jokes. I look at my act as almost like an episode of The Simpsons. You watch The Simpsons, or any cartoon, really. Cartoons are made with the idea that the adult is watching with the child. Like when we were little, we'd watch Looney Tunes, and they'd have like all these like Orson Welles jokes, like all these jokes that we didn't get, but your parents watching got it, right? So
Muppets were like that too.
Yeah, exactly. The Simpsons was like that, where here's a comment on society. If you're an adult, you'll get that. You'll get that satire. If you're younger, maybe that comment on society was wrapped in a fart joke. So you're laughing at the fart jokes while the older kid is laughing at the comment on society, but you're both laughing. So in my jokes, even if it's a comment on male-female interactions, perhaps my word choice or the example that I use is a bit specific, and that's for those who read. Mm-hmm. But if you don't read and you just like a good sheep noise, that's in there too.
That's coming right around the corner.
It's right in your face, whether you want it or not.
The sheep noise. Yeah, where did that come from?
It came from the way that I perceive girls to talk when there's like a bunch of them. It just ramps up very quickly. And it just kind of came out one day. Like, I love your shoes. I love your shoes. Oh my God. I love It's just, come on. I love girls.
Girls are the best.
Girls are the best.
Boys
are the best too.
We're all great. Buddhist. That's the Buddhist in you. So you've been doing comedy now 9 years?
Yeah.
9.
I know.
That's nothing.
It's weird to say that though. It's weird to be at a point in my life where I can look back and 9 years doesn't mean that I was 1. Like, it's weird. So, yeah, 9 years.
Yeah. So, and the scene has changed even in those 9 years.
Yes, because of social media.
Yeah. What have you noticed?
I've noticed, social media makes it ever present. Every joke's in your face. You can know about every show. Comics or funny people are getting famous off of 2-minute clips online, a Vine video. There's so much comedy.
How do you feel about that?
It's whatever. If you got the chops to back it up, good for you. That doesn't bother me one bit.
If you don't have the chops and you're elevated,
then you'll go away.
Right.
So again, it doesn't.
But there's the resentment too.
No, I don't do that. That doesn't bother me. I don't spend my time resenting people that have made it. I think that's like a really unhealthy way to go about it. I'll look at someone and be like, that person blows, but I don't spend my time.
Yeah.
And they'll go away. Quality sticks. So great. You had a 30-second clip on some sort of weird new social application that hit it big. You'll get offered a show, you'll get this, you'll get that, and then you will go away. Or you're really funny, in which case I'm a huge fan.
Right.
So it's really all about if you can back it up.
So you didn't study stand-up, but once you started, were there certain stand-ups that you looked at and tried to figure out what you like, what you don't?
No, but I will say this. There are certain stand-ups where I saw them and I was like, holy fuck, like that's how you do it. And one of them was Dane Cook.
Yeah.
For whatever anyone thinks about the guy, he was epic. And he was a game changer. He was the first MySpace comic. He was the first comic where it was like, I'm good looking and I wear tight shirts and this is okay. Truly. He was a happy comic. And I saw...
What era, Dane Cook?
I probably saw him in 2005?
Yeah.
2006?
I saw him in live 2000.
Okay. So that
or
was...
1999. Not sure. He came here. He was unknown. He did a Just for Laughs tour, their very first cross-Canada tour. And he was one of the... Hold the mic away now as you chew.
Sorry.
He blew me away. I go, this guy's hilarious. I'm going to watch for him. Yeah. And it took a few years, and I would see him on the Tonight Show occasionally. I go, there's that guy.
Yeah.
He's good. And then it got to the point where I didn't like the backlash, the immediate backlash when he got really popular. But after a couple of years, I'm going, yeah, okay, this is not as great as I remember.
Not everyone can be Cher, right? Like not everyone can like shoot to the top and stay there.
Okay.
But I think he did. I think he did a great job. And I'll just talk about what I saw when I went to the Laugh Factory in like 2006. I think I just started and like a boyfriend took me there and I left inspired. And that's how you should feel as a comic when you see good stand-up. It makes you want to go right. Just like when you see a good movie, it makes you fall back in love with movies again. And I felt that way about when I watched Pablo Francisco. I love energetic comedy. I definitely take a page from his book. So I just... Yeah.
And that's true to you too, right? It's not like you're this real, low energy person.
Right.
And going, this is what I want to do.
Right.
It is true to you. We would know it if it weren't.
Yeah. So I enjoy Brian Callen. He was a friend of mine.
Yeah, I just saw him here a couple months ago.
I just like watching. I just like watching comedy that's similar to mine. I don't enjoy watching slow-paced comedy.
Oh, yeah?
Some comics that are famous I've never even watched because the idea of watching, I'm just like, that just seems boring. Like, what are you talking about?
Got to give them a chance, though.
I don't, because they don't want my tickets. They want someone else. I'm not going to buy a ticket to your show. I'm a comic. I'm not helping you get richer. But But, and then you get surprised once in a while. You do a show and you watch a person that you never thought you'd see before. And I love to be surprised. And I love watching good stand-up because it makes you want to be better. And, you get to laugh. And I love loving other comics.
Yeah, there's never been a comic that you see that is so good where you go, I just got to quit.
No. That's ridiculous.
Some people are. They go, I could never be like that, so I'm going to quit. Rather than inspiring you to try to reach that level.
You look at someone like Bill Burr, and you're like, every line he says, you're like, oh my God. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's so good. But he's been doing it forever. And, it comes in levels. Nobody wakes up Bill Burr. Like he's obviously worked to get there, and that's the way he's wired. So you can look at it and just know that you will be who you're going to be, and you'll be the best one that you can be. And it's so subjective. I could get up there and just make fart sounds for 15 minutes, and some people might think that's brilliant.
True.
So,
and then, whenever I've judged a comedy competition, I always hate having to give points for audience response.
Sure.
Because of that very reason. I go, they
variables,
could get up there and make fart noises, and everyone would laugh.
Yeah.
Or they could get up there and do somebody else's jokes, and everybody would laugh.
Yeah. Well, therein lies the rub, because what makes it's art. So what makes it so great but also so difficult at the same time is because it isn't a finite science, and because it isn't sports where whoever has the fastest time in this race is the fastest runner. And that's or sport or any sport. If you work hard and you're the best, whatever, quarterback on the team, like your stats reflect it. My ticket sales, I could be a hacky comic, but I could sell out arenas. That doesn't mean I'm funny, or it does to some. So it's so subjective. So even at the height of your career, other people might just think you're absolute shit. Now, hopefully you just turn off those comments on Facebook or Twitter. So that's the beauty of it, because you'll never be as good. You'll never be perfect, because it's art.
The great Steve Allen said, that's right, you can't say that person's not funny. You can only say that person's not funny to me, because there's a whole room full of people laughing at him.
However,
yes, we can.
I always find it funny. There's like a certain understanding among comics that I respect where you'll name someone, they'll be like, that guy sucks. And
everyone will say that.
Now, granted, a couple people are laughing, but there's something to be said for the majority of people. Like, it's almost a democracy. Like, the majority of people think you're terrible. I don't know. I find that comforting, even if someone is successful. If I don't think they're funny, if the comics that I respect are kind of like, ugh, whatever, then I feel like, on Judgment Day, someone's going to tell you, by the way, your career was garbage, even though you live in a mansion.
Hey, did you watch the?
I did not.
But
I actually didn't.
Last Comic Standing. Yeah.
I did. My mom did. I didn't know it was on. And
I didn't until 1 hour in, so I caught the last hour.
It was last night, right?
It was a couple nights ago.
I think I was on stage, but I didn't watch it. It's a weird thing because I have this like weird desire. I'm like, I gotta go. I want to compete, and then I remind myself that like I did and I won, but it's like a weird thing because like I feel like something's going on without me.
Oh, to go back on?
Not even go back on, but like I forget that I did it.
Oh,
and I just see a competition. I just smell a competition. I'm like, I want to do comedy. It really has nothing to do with me at this point. I know all the comics that are on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of them, and I hope that it does something good for comedy. But I have nothing to. I might be on the season finale, but I really have nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. What I think is completely irrelevant. Plus, I won in 2008. It's not like I won last year. And I'm certainly not going to walk around like, hey, remember me? I'm the winner. Remember, here's what I think about a show that was canceled for a little bit and then came back and then was canceled again. Like, so.
You didn't watch it. Now, we talked about the potential of you hosting a late night show. Or somebody, because, they're always coming and going. Now, Pete Holmes was just canceled a couple days ago.
We had a lovely text exchange.
Yeah.
Felt bad for him because I was on his show and I had a great time and he's very, very funny. But here's an example, that's an example of somebody who is funny and has the gravitas to like back it up, and the numbers just weren't there. Mm-hmm. And I know that feeling as a comic. You come into a city, you've done everything you can. Your voice is sore from performing. You're exhausted. You feel gross. You're tired. Maybe you're sick, and you've tweeted it. You've Facebooked it. You've done all the media, and then, it doesn't sell out or not enough people show up. Not necessarily not enough, but like that you thought.
And the people who do show up love it.
They love it. But it's just the thing that's just like, you're like, all I can do is the best I can do. I did everything I could.
Yeah.
And that's an example, and I've made pilots and I've been on shows and you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into something and you're fighting every day. I mean, I look at it that way. This is your life. This is your career. For a comic, those two things are often one and the same. and there's just nothing you can do about it. The market is so saturated. So if you trickle it down to someone like me who's made several late night pilots, I just made a pilot for NBC and they were like, we loved you. And the editing was horrible and the pilot was bad, but it had nothing to do with you. And you're like, well, then can you give me another one, please?
Yeah.
So, and that's what you do.
You realize it was somebody else's problem.
They don't. And so if you're lucky, you get enough at-bats until you knock it out of the park. If you're unlucky, you get one chance and they're like, you know what? Thanks, bye. Please don't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky for me, I keep getting invited back. So one of these
days. Yeah. Craig Ferguson's gone and Norm Macdonald has been campaigning. He was on Conan the other night talking about it. You don't want to campaign, you just want to be selected.
I don't know who I'd campaign for. I think Norm Macdonald has a bit more pull. Like he could get on those shows. I can't be like, hey, I'm here, let me on. I'll come out of nowhere and people will, all of a sudden it'll be like, oh my God, we've always loved her. And I'll be like, no, I'm putting my time in the trenches. I'm seeing a real growth spurt in fans and numbers.
Based on your special probably, right?
Based on the special. Netflix did a lot of that. And definitely put the time in. And look, being a stand-up comic and spending these years on stage, learning to be afraid of nothing and learning about your voice. And, a couple of years ago, if you asked me questions about comedy, I'd probably preface everything with, well, I don't know how other comics are good too. And here's how I feel. And now I'm like, this is not about the other comics. This is about me. And here's my opinion. And I've worked enough in this field for long enough that I'm okay with saying my opinion and backing it up. And I don't have to be a shrinking violet.
Yeah, and so you're doing this new hour. You're working on it here this weekend and every weekend, and you're going to be at Just for Laughs.
I'm going to be Just for Laughs. I'm going to do my new hour at Just for Laughs.
So it's all going to come together July, is it? When is Just for Laughs?
I think my date's July 23rd.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that my manager was like, we don't know, and then it's on the internet. I'm like, cool. Well, I know. And I just got the Tonight Show, which I'm not supposed to tell anyone.
Oh, sweet.
Yes.
When will that be?
Should be June 11th, but like my manager said, if Barack Obama decides to pop in, I will get bumped. So as of right now, that's the date.
Great, with Jimmy Fallon.
Yes, who I did his show when it was just Jimmy Fallon.
I remember.
So that's cool.
So you're a fan of him?
I love Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
He's fun and contemporary and adorable, handsome. And his wife is very funny.
Who's his wife?
Gloria Fallon.
Oh.
She's on Twitter. I just think she's funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's all.
I don't know. Well, that's all exciting for you.
What time is it?
I know it's time for you to go.
Oh, okay.
We can't do the full hour with you because
I had to get ready.
You got to get ready.
I had to listen to Jay-Z and get ready.
Is that what you do?
I worked out and I woke up very late and I tried to cram everything in.
Well, I'm glad you could cram me in, so to speak.
Always.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the interview.
Good night. Eliza. She's a nice lady, isn't she? Probably doesn't appreciate me calling her a lady, being that I am considerably older than she is, but I just did. So there you go. She is nice, though, and I appreciate her taking the time to talk. I appreciate you for taking the time to listen, and there's more where this came from. So download us, all the usual places, wherever you download fine podcasts. Well, you know how to do it because you're listening to this one. Hope you enjoyed it. And leave a comment, will you? Maybe at your favorite podcast repository, such as iTunes. We have a few comments on there. Not enough, if you ask me. But hey, no pressure. Do what you got to do. And we'll be back next time with another guest from the world of comedy. Thanks for listening.